friends. Welcome to Be Waste Wise, and this is the fourth webinar in partnership with ISWA. My name is Ranjit Annipu. I'm a senior waste management specialist, where I've helped various organizations reduce wastes and achieve compliance, and also help launch various international initiatives to improve recycling and waste management. I'm also a co-founder of Be Waste Wise, where we've helped organizations like ISWA through webinars like this, and Asian Development Bank, MWH Global, and others achieve capacity building and knowledge dissemination goals. We're also partnering with the World Bank to launch the new version of their famous and extremely useful water waste report in September. So if your organization is looking for knowledge, an avenue for knowledge dissemination, please get in touch with us. You can write to us at connect@wastewise.be. And we're also looking for local and regional partners now for knowledge dissemination globally. Before we get into the today's webinar, let me mention that our annual program called the Global Dialogue on Waste will be starting on September 4th, and will be from September 4th to September 5th. And the themes for this year are new systems for North America, where we'll be talking about new social and technological solutions that are coming, that are happening right now for North America. And then the second theme is learning across the Atlantic, where we believe both the US and Europe are facing similar problems when it comes to waste management, but the solutions, the technological and social solutions that they're charting on are very divergent. And I think there's a lot of learning that can happen between these two continents. So that's the second day, learning across the Atlantic. So please visit our website and you can sign up for these two events. And next week on Wednesday, August 29th, we have another webinar with ISWA with the DNosis project. And the DNosis project is a citizen science-based project where DNosis is working with communities around the world to map odor and nuisance issues, so that with that better knowledge, the communities can engage better with other stakeholders. They are looking for community partners around the world. So please join us August 29th, Wednesday. You can also sign up for this webinar on Be Waste Wise. Today we're doing some magic. So instead of Philip Halen, we have Tom de Brocaire joining us. He's the advisor. He's an advisor to Philip Halen, and he's also the chair of the working group on communications at ISWA. Tom, welcome to Be Waste Wise. We've known each other for a long time, but it took all these years for you to be on Be Waste Wise.
Correct. Thank you for inviting us for this webinar and giving us the opportunity to tell the people some more about this brand new initiative of ISWA. So thanks for having us.
No problem. So friends, Philip Halen will be joining us in a few minutes. Until then, Tom will take us through the IMM, what IMM is, and he'll introduce us to the idea, and then we'll ask more questions once Philip's on the screen. Tom, so could you tell us a little bit about the initiative? What was the starting point? Why did you start something like this?
Yeah, the whole idea behind this project, or behind the initiative, is the fact that we realized, or some politicians within ISWA, politicians like Philip Halen and Doron Sapir, who is the vice mayor of Tel Aviv. Those two guys, they're both politicians, and they are both became passionate about waste. And they realized actually that a lot of their colleagues who are also politicians on municipal level are not so passionate about waste, and that the awareness for waste management and sustainable waste management within a lot of municipalities and a lot of cities is still very limited. And so they wanted to share their passion. They both were familiar with ISWA and recognized that ISWA was a marvelous organization who brings together a lot of people from different companies, a lot of people from different universities and organizations, but they had the idea and the feeling that there was still some, the politicians were lacking. And so they said, okay, let's take an initiative or take some effort in order to bring politicians on a municipal level together within ISWA, and to make sure that all the information and all the knowledge and all the experience that we have gathered within ISWA, that we disclose this also for local politicians, and make them a little bit more enthusiastic about waste management, and make sure that they get the right tools and the right information for them to use in their local policy making and their local decision making. That's the idea behind it. And then, yeah, ISWA, the board of ISWA was enthusiastic about this project as well, and they asked Philip and Doron to formalize it and to come up with a proposal. And so we now officially launched the initiative for mayors and municipalities a few weeks ago in Singapore at a clean tech event which took place there. And in one sentence now we can say, okay, ISWA's initiative for mayors and municipalities is a platform with the objective to disseminate the know-how and all the best practices in waste to decision makers all over the world. That's the one sentence, the objective of the IMM.
Right. And friends, as you might know, more than 50% of the world's population today lives in cities. And that kind of makes cities a great lever to be able to create global change. And in all these cities, I think the local politicians, the mayors, they play, I think, the most important role in deciding the future of these cities. And I think that's why I've been really excited about the initiative for municipalities and mayors by ISWA. And like Tom said, ISWA is truly, I think, one of the only organizations, one of the only global organizations with participation from all around the world. So that's great. So Tom, could you tell us a little bit about what kind of politicians you're focusing on? So is it just the mayors of each of these cities, or are you also looking at others?
Actually, the initiative is open for all politicians, because if you look at on global scale, in some countries, waste management policy is defined at national level. In countries, it's the regions or the cities or the municipalities who are the leading actors. And so there's no one size fits all. So we say, okay, the effort that we do in order to make all this information available in a language and in a wording that fits these politicians, we want to make it available for policymakers on all levels. We have called it indeed the initiative for mayors and municipalities because, as you say, cities and municipalities play a more and more important role, and more people live in cities, and that will only increase in the coming decades. So we focus on them. But that does not mean that also politicians on a regional or national level or other organizations are not welcome. We welcome everybody.
Right. All right. Let me just do some housekeeping, friends. So we'll have I'll be asking questions for about 30 minutes, and then we'll open it for questions from the audience. So if you have any questions, use the live chat below the screen to send us those questions. Meanwhile, please introduce yourselves, and please feel free to have a good chat with the other participants. Tom, so the idea of IMM, is to engage politicians. So politicians and also more city-based leaders. So is this a change in how ISWA operates? I mean, until recently, ISWA has been working more on networking globally and working on disseminating knowledge, but there hasn't been much focus on the cities per se, which have been very important. So is this a change in how ISWA operates?
Change, yes and no. The thing is that I think that within ISWA, they made a click that these politicians and local politicians is an important target group for ISWA, in order to get the message across, because ISWA's mission is to promote and develop sustainable waste management worldwide to everybody. everybody who plays a role, every stakeholder within waste that could play a role within waste management, and so politicians are certainly an important stakeholder in this. And I think that ISWA realized that maybe they have neglected to target or to reach out to politicians in the past, and that's why they now say, okay, yeah, we welcome this initiative wholeheartedly and with a lot of enthusiasm, and they support this initiative very strongly. And that's also why in all future ISWA events, like the World Congress in a few weeks, at the end of October, there will be the ISWA World Congress in Kuala Lumpur. In the plenary opening session, there will be some time for announcing or to tell the participants more about this initiative. And there will also be a separate session dedicated to politicians and mayors and municipal officers within the program. So ISWA is making space and time within their existing program now for this specific target group, indeed.
Right, right. And what kind of response are you getting to this initiative at this point?
Yeah, as said, we launched it, or for the first time officially announced it a few weeks ago, beginning of July. It was in Singapore, where we had the opportunity offered by the National Environment Agency of Singapore. They offered us the opportunity to announce it at the what they call the Clean Environment Leaders Summit. We had the very nice opportunity of having the floor there in a room with 400 politicians, decision makers from all the kinds of levels, where we could announce this initiative. And we must say that all the reactions and the response that we got until now is really overwhelming. There's a lot of enthusiasm for the initiative, and that only supports us in our feeling that this is indeed something that a lot of people were waiting for.
Right. And when it comes to your strategy for targeting municipalities and politicians, well, there are two different things, about the types of politicians that you're targeting, but also the regions from which the politicians come from. So when it comes to the regions from where they come from, what's the strategy? Are you thinking certain regions first, or are you going more with the events and the opportunities that you get to be able to target them? What's your strategy?
We will do this in a kind of pragmatic way and a no-nonsense way, and indeed an opportunistic way, because it's not our objective to organize standalone events or new events, but we want to include them in the framework of existing conferences and congresses that ISWA and maybe other organizations are already setting up. As said, we started in Singapore, where we had the existing framework of the Clean Environment Summit. We will do it again at the World Congress of ISWA in a few weeks in Kuala Lumpur. And so we will look out for 4 or 5 major events throughout the year, where we can include our IMM topic in the existing program. The advantage is indeed that this is a budget-friendly way to do it, and it guarantees us most of the time already of a very good audience that is already there.
Right. Is Philip here?
Meanwhile, yeah, Philip just arrived, so I will make place, and I will let him continue the story.
All right. Thank you so much, Tom.
Good morning or good afternoon, Ranjit.
Hi, Philip. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Sorry that I'm late, but traffic, like everywhere in every city, really made a problem. And we are a port city, and there was a major traffic accident, and all the bridges were open, and so that's why it took me so long. I'm sorry.
No problem. Friends, you've been waiting for Philip. So Philip Halen is here. He serves as a chairman of the board of directors of ISWA, which is an inter-municipal waste management organization in Antwerp. He's currently business development manager at Ackermans and Van Haren, and he's also the honorary vice mayor of the city of Antwerp. Philip and Doron Sapir. Doron Sapir is the first deputy mayor of Tel Aviv, Israel, and also a ISWA board member. Both of them together have started the initiative for municipalities and mayors and municipalities with ISWA. So, Philip, we already had a chance with Tom to learn a little bit about what IMM is and what the strategy is for how you're going to target the politicians and what kind of politicians you're trying to target. But do you have any introducing remarks? Do you want to add anything else to that?
Well, I think you gave a good introduction. Let me say that in the last 18 years, I have become a strong advocate of sustainable waste management. And I have seen it from the public point of view. That means from local authorities, and how we can improve through legislation and through the whole system. How can we make sure that we treat our materials in the right way? That is the whole idea. That's the experience that I've had. On the other side, this is not rocket science. A good sustainable waste policy needs certain things that have to be prepared and a follow-up and continue certain things. But at the end, once you have a good plan, it is possible to achieve a certain goal. What I have seen in many, many cases is that sometimes technology is available, but not policy or not, let's say, a framework. Sometimes technology is not available, but is money, means are available. And sometimes people just start from scratch. Whatever situation you find yourself in, don't always try to reinvent hot water. And so what I have seen is that in those 18 years, although with a strong, how should I say, technological improvement, which we have in this part of Europe and in this part of the world, I have seen that I have learned from others. What we want to do with this initiative is combine both. We want to share our information as much as possible as local authorities or former leaders of local authorities with other colleagues who want to go forward with sustainable waste management, but don't really know how to do it. And on the other side, we would like to connect between the public and the private sector itself, because it's never a one-fits-all story. It has to be tailor-made. And I have seen and met so many people throughout the planet, to be honest, that I think that if we meet on certain moments, let's take the opportunity of share very tailor-made that experience. And by doing so, I think we can even improve and go to a more circular economy, go to a more sustainable waste management landscape and things like that. That's the idea behind it. And I have found within ISWA, and I have found with my colleague in Tel Aviv and other places, other colleagues around the world, I think the right people to bring that knowledge to certain places where people meet and where we might improve certain things.
Right, great. Friends, I just want to remind you that we'll be taking questions in about 7 to 8 minutes. So get ready with them, or you can already start typing them in the chat box below. And I just wanted to add to what Philip said. Waste management is literally not rocket science. I mean, some aspects of waste management and thermal conversion can get as complicated as rocket science, but overall, I believe it's not something like certain types of cancer or certain types or HIV where humans haven't invented a solution. I mean, but it still continues to impact public health around the world and quality of life around the world. So I think it's extremely important for us to understand how the important role that technologies play, but also that kind of is based on the strong basis of networking and community-based solutions. So, Philip, I have a tricky question for you. So now you're focusing on local decision makers, and this is a problem that I've observed around the developing world. Is in in most democracies, the decision makers change every few years, sometimes 3 years, sometimes 4 years or 5 years. But when it comes to waste management infrastructure or waste management solutions, these are generally 10, 15, 20 or 40-year long solutions. So how do you deal with that attrition in your target audience?
First of all, democracy is very, very useful. The only thing which you have in a democracy is elections.
Yeah.
I know many of my colleagues don't always like it, but as long as you don't have anything better, I go for the democracy, of course.
Yeah.
But if politicians come and go, their administrations are there. They don't move.
Mm.
I've been to on mission for UNEP to Lebanon, to Beirut, to solve or to try to bring on the table solutions for the sustainable waste management policy in Lebanon. One of the things was that the politicians changed the whole time, but the people behind the scenes, those who were really responsible for the whole matter, they were staying in place. They were staying in office. So it is not that if somebody goes, then the idea is off the table. Sometimes you just need local decision makers to bring something on the table and then continue from it. And once again, as you say, we're not dealing with cancer research. We are dealing with facts that give me an analysis of what waste we're talking about, give me an idea of the framework in which we are dealing. Is there already legislation? Is there somehow separations of streams of materials and things like that? And then 3, what is the first step to move forward? What kind of technology can be implemented? What is the territory we have or don't have? Which other resources are available or not available? Once you have put all these things on the table, you move forward. And my statement is that if you want to achieve something, you can have quick wins and quick results, sustainable quick results within a framework of 24 sometimes to 30 months. Then already you achieve something. So for most of local authorities and for most of local politicians, this means that in their term, they can prove and come up with solutions, with steps forward. That's what we would like to give them to them. So it's not because people come and go that it definitely means that you have to restart again. No, you can continue, and the administrations, which has to do the work, they stay in office.
Philip, could you also talk to us a little bit about what's your strategy for dealing with the administrations as well as the political leaders? So when you're targeting them, are you targeting both of them together? Is that how do they take part in this, and where are you going to be next?
Let me say honestly, I came with the idea for many years. Singapore is a very good example. In Singapore, they organize every 2 years the World City Summit, the Clean Environment Sustainable Summit, the Singapore Water Week. What I've learned in all these years that I've been attending to these conferences is that they also have a kind of a regulators roundtable. The regulators roundtable is 2.5 days that they invite people, sit together, and they share problems and solutions and challenges and opportunities together. Who is present? Who is present? Sometimes it's leaders, ministers, mayors, vice mayors, but most of the times they're always accompanied by chief staff members, people of the administrations, director generals, or others who are in office. So what we would like to do is we would like to use the opportunities when people meet. There are so many conferences every year and talking about all kinds of specific elements. Why not make it structural and say, if you go to an ISWA conference, if you go to a CWEP conference in Europe, if you go to the international summits in Singapore, you always find also within the program the opportunity of asking, finding, connecting people that might help you with your solution. That is the whole idea. When the minister of Vietnam comes over to me and asks my support to say, how can we start in certain cities like Hai Phong in the Northeast? How can we start sustainable waste management policies? Well, instead of making appointments and going back and forth, we meet 2-3 times a year on certain conferences. Let's share the information at a time. If I'm not there, somebody else is there. Connect with ISWA, and ISWA will provide you with that information. It's not a new organization of something we're doing. We just want to provide an extra service from within ISWA, which creates and really says why ISWA is so important, because the only organization where all that information comes together. Private companies are members there, countries and local authorities are members, and all the information, it's like a library. When need, we bring the library to you with all the information and research which is already done. And then you just plug in and look what might be necessary available for you. That's the whole idea.
Right, right. And I think that's extremely important. And people are like walking libraries. So, you know, when you meet them, there's a lot of information, a lot of knowledge and solutions that come out. Let me ask you another question. So we're talking about tailor-made solutions for each of these communities. So who works on these tailor-mades? How are the other people, how do they engage with these politicians and leaders?
Well, first of all, a couple of years ago at the ISWA's World Congress in Antwerp, which I had the honor to preside in 2015, UNEP and the World Bank and ISWA came up with a report. And that really was a kind of a first-time document. I always refer to it as a waste management policy for dummies. It was the Global Waste Outlook report. This report gave an idea. If you want to go for a sustainable waste policy, what do you need? On the level of legislation, financial, technological, measurement, all these elements which you need to start it up, to continue and to focus. In the meanwhile, that has been developed with a separate report focusing on Asia. We are looking at other reports for other areas in the world. So the information is there. The only thing is, how can we bring that information to the right people? So if we have a beacon conference of ISWA in Africa, and we will meet leaders there, we say, listen, we are confronted with this or that problem. Can you help us? Can you give you a solution? If we're in India and we're faced with problems, sometimes people can come up and say, okay, we seem to have a problem. Is it a question of creating awareness? Is it a technological question? Do you know somebody that can help me? Who has this technology? Which companies we should look at? I mean, that's the whole idea. We would like to listen and find out what is the problem in this region, in that country, in that mega city, or in that district, and perhaps we can immediately connect them with the right people. I think it's a kind of a service provider, but then with a strong focus on waste policy.
Mm-hmm. We have a question from Rodrigo Atilano from Mexico. The question is this initiative open and available to any kind of city, from small communities to big metropolitan areas? That's a question.
I think the most important thing is you have an organization which is ISWA. It's how I got involved with it, from Antwerp, a small city in Belgium. Being connected with ISWA, I found out that even with 72% 72% of all materials being recycled, I could still learn new things from and through ISWA. So I got connected with ISWA, and that's where I create a platform. Every local authorities, small city or big city, can connect with ISWA, ask the questions, and we can try to find solutions for your problem. And we can probably always connect you with people who are closer to your home than just the people in this or that part of the world. So yes, it is free, and everybody can connect to the initiative through the platform or through the organization of ISWA.
Right, right. And so what are the events that you're going to be next? Where will you be present in the next few months or years?
Yeah, because Rajit, it's a good question. The events, we are not going to organize new events. We're not going to overload people with new things. The only thing which we would like to do, and take ISWA as the starting point, is we would like to connect with other international organizations and make sure that if European, international, South American, African, Southeast Asian platforms takes place where people are thinking and talking and negotiating about sustainable waste policy, we'll also be there, and we'll probably find also possibilities to connect. So we'll be present in the next months at the ISWA World Conference in Kuala Lumpur.
Mm-hmm.
Take place at the end of October. We were in the summer in Singapore, where we launched it. I will be present in a couple of weeks also at the CEWEP, which is on the European level in Spain, in Bilbao. And I will also like to connect on the European level, make exactly the same new connection. So that means that if we meet somewhere, I would like to have this Singaporean regulators roundtable idea to be implemented also at these moments. So people know I go to a conference, not to listen in a passive way, but also in an active way. I know my questions. I would like to meet the right people, and I know that I get answers to my personal questions or challenges which I face. And in that way, the platform is open to everybody, from leaders, from small villages, communities, to mega cities.
All right. Friends, I realize that some of you are having trouble watching the session. The others are able to watch it without any problems. From the community, we hear that if you watch it on mobile, it's much easier. But again, we've never had this problem. So sorry about that. Philip, do you have any final thoughts? I mean, final thoughts about this initiative, and maybe a welcome message to everyone here?
What I think is so important, and this is one of the reasons why I said I want to support this when I was in office, and now when I work in a private company, Akkermans and Van Haren, and where also resources are high on the agenda. What I would like to see done is that all the knowledge that I gathered in the past 15, 20 years, and the new experiences which I see today, I would like to share it with others. And if many of us are moving in the same direction, then we make indeed the difference. For me, the most important issue after the COP21 conference in Paris was that waste management was immediately linked to climate change. So if we can improve and move step by step towards sustainable waste management policies, we're not only doing something which will benefit us in the direct momentum in which we live, but we will also add to improve the climate. And that's why I think we should see and find solutions. And sometimes the solutions might be somewhere where you do not expect it. And if we have enough people together, that means enough libraries brought together, we might find exactly the solution.
Right. And what's the future vision like? How will IMM look in 3 years, let's say? So you're going to many different events and engaging people there, but
it will not only be me, there will be others as well. It's not a personal initiative, it's an initiative from ISWA. So it's me, it's others. The idea is that between now and a couple of years, people know that if they have a problem, if they need a solution, if they look for partners, you contact through the IMM and ISWA, and we will try to bring them together. And then, of course, you have to do it yourself, but it already helps a lot. If you are looking for the first time for waste to energy, how do you start with it? What is this technology? How much will it cost me? How long is it going to take before we have anything started? How will neighbors react to it? Is it really as dirty and bad as some say, or is it really as good for those countries who have been developing it for the last 30 years? What about landfill? And I can continue. That's the whole idea.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a huge technology landscape out there, depending on each community's requirements. So it's sometimes it gets really daunting for someone who hasn't had enough time to learn about waste management to come in and then make decisions on that. And this is something that Be Waste Wise has been working on for a while, which is all the knowledge out there is available in a long 200-page PDFs or at only certain international conferences. And both of these are not accessible for decision makers who generally, I don't think a city manager would read through my 200-page report to take a decision. It has to be much more engaging. It has to be much more easily attainable knowledge. So I think IMM, I think it's a great opportunity where you also get to meet people. So that kind of interaction also improves the kind of work that you can do together.
Exactly. That's the whole idea. And the more information we share, the better thoughts come out. I mean, if I'm investing 175 million for a new waste to energy plant in the next years, I can find out all kinds of new technologies, which probably are all good. But at the end, you have to take the decision. So what you do is, we went and listened to our colleagues in Copenhagen and in Scandinavia. We went to look in Germany and spoke with many people. And then you start looking and feeling. And at the end, by talking and meeting them and trying to put yourself in their place and invite them to come to you, you gather all that information and then you take a decision. It's a long experience, but it's a lot of knowledge that we gathered. We want to share it with others. And then at the end, you will take your decision to say, in my case, for my suit, I want to have these fabrics, I want to have these colors, and that's what I want to wear. But we will at least give you all the options, put as many options on the table. And that is a service you don't find just in reports, and you won't need to go to specific conferences. No, if a conference is somewhere where you are willing to go or already paid for to go, that's where we want to be present. So I hope in 3 years' time that ISWA will have a broader platform and that we will have more partnerships with World Bank, with UNEP, with others, really to make sure that there is always something directly for you involved if you go and meet their other colleagues.
Right. Amazing. So what you said about that reminds me of a meditation book I was reading recently, where the author says, imagine you're standing at the foothills of Himalayas and you pick one of the peaks to ascend, then I am the Sherpa who will help you understand how to get prepared for that ascent, or tell you which are the good spots to stand at, or give you all the preparation that's required and actually guide you through to that point. I think that's the kind of role that ISWA wants to play in this overall change globally. So thank you very much for that, Philip. And if you have any final thoughts, we can go with that. Otherwise, we can end the webinar here. And I'm really sorry for the people who are unable to watch the webinar live. We've never encountered this problem. This is the first time. So if you have any questions that we couldn't answer, that you couldn't ask today, please feel free to send an email to connect@wastewise.be. And we will get them answered directly from Philip. And we just have one question from my very good friend, Luca Arsova. She is a senior environmental engineer at ERG. And she's asking, how can private companies get involved in the initiative? For example, solid waste management consulting companies.
Well, let me say that we need them, of course, because all the information is not information invented by politicians. It's politicians who, at a certain moment, had to make a choice between what private companies have came up with. So the idea of the platform is we listen to questions and we connect them with others. We are never going to say, take this company or that company. That's not our role. But we can at least say, listen, there is this company, there is that technology, you should go and meet that and that people, because we think that that list of companies or consultants even might be the perfect match for you. And that will be different in Africa, Southeast Asia, North Europe, South Europe. That's the whole idea. So yes, if you're a private company, if you are involved in sustainable waste management, and that is your thing, also connect to ISWA, see what we are doing, connect with us, and we will bring you in contact and make the ISWA family even bigger and larger in the weeks, months, and years to come.
Right, right. So they do have an opportunity to interact with these decision makers directly through ISWA.
Absolutely.
All right, that's good to know. And I think that's extremely important to be done too. We have another question from Margaret Dara Oshodi from Nigeria. She is asking, is there a guide on how the initiative can be introduced within each country? Are you doing it through your ISWA national members, or how are you going about it?
Let me say, I'm sharing these thoughts with you and all the friends who are following us now. But we just launched the idea and got the approval of the ISWA board a couple of months ago. We are now going for the first time to the first World Conference of ISWA in Kuala Lumpur in a couple of weeks next month. So yes, I hope that we can improve and enlarge this initiative. We will have to organize ourselves for that as well. So give us on that point a couple of weeks and months to get more mature. But in the meanwhile, it would help, of course, if many people connect and come and mail and try to catch up with ISWA already, so that we can organize and try to find what is the best way to organize to the questions or the initiatives that we would like to support.
All right, sounds good. And so with that, thank you so much, Philip, for your time, and also Tom for his time. I just wanted to say, BWasteWise would be very happy to help you throughout this initiative with any kind of knowledge dissemination that's required. So with that, thank you so much. Thanks for joining us, everyone. And again, I'm sorry that some of you couldn't watch and ask questions. But Susanna is asking, will it be a digital platform? And let me just say that it'll not be a digital platform. It'll be mostly networking with peers at each one of the conferences that they want to be at. So with that, thank you guys again, and have a good day, good evening, or good morning. And with that, yeah, see you next week on Wednesday for the DNosis webinar. And DNosis is looking for community partners around the world. So please join us next Wednesday there. And on September 4th and 5th, we have the Global Dialogue on Waste, where the two themes for the days are one, new systems for North America, and number two, the second theme is learning across the Atlantic. And we already have a lot of registrations coming in for both events. So please register for both DNosis and the 2 days of the 2018 Global Dialogue on Waste. Yeah, with that, see you guys. Bye.
Bye.